In this video, we are going to learn about if statements. And to do so, we're going to create a grading function. So a function where you enter in a percentage and we get out whether we pass or fail or whether we have like an A or a B. And so let's just start off with the word function. That's how we're going to start off every function. Usually like the output here, but usually our output is some number. But this time it's not going to be a number. We're going to have something again like A or B or C or maybe pass or fail. So I'm going to leave that blank. Then we want the name of the function, which should match the name of the file, which you can see the name of the file here is already grading fun. And then we want our input here in the parentheses, which should be a percentage. There we go. And now, again, we're just going to go with pass fail here to begin. So if the percentage is greater than 60, and what do we want to do if the percentage is greater than 60? Well, we want to say that this person passes. So we will use DISP for display. And then whatever text we want to display here, we need to put in quotes. And let's put grade pass. Okay. Now, if there is no other if statement we need to create here, or no other scenario other than one, we can use else. Okay? So in other words, if they didn't get greater than 60, well, they must have. Actually, I should add in one little thing here. This should be greater than or equal to. Okay? So is what I was going to say is if this person didn't get a grade or a percentage that was greater than or equal to 60, well, then they would fail. And that's the only other scenario here. So is what we can do is just say else. We don't need to specify the percentage is less than 60. It's just implied here if it's not greater than or equal to 60. So we'll say display again. And the grade will be fail. And then every if statement has to have an end. And so we'll go ahead and hit save and we'll test it out. And so you can see over here, I've already typed in grading fun 50. This should give us a failing grade. It does. And let's say we type in 65, that should be a pass. Okay. And you can see it's displaying pass down here. So it looks good. But let's see how we would do this maybe if we had more than just two options like pass and fail. Okay. Maybe we want to talk about what would happen if this person or talk about like an A, B, C, D, F scenario. So let's maybe say that anything greater than or equal to 90 is a pass, or not a pass, but an A. Now, if we have, again, multiple options here, not just two, then we'll use else if for the next one. And in this scenario, we will need to specify what it is, but let's say the grade is going to be a B. Now, a B would be any grade that is actually between, uh, um, 80 and 90, but excluding 90. So we could write this actually a couple of ways. We'll see that we don't need to do one thing here, but we could say that the percentage is less than 90, and so I have an ampersand here, and the percentage is greater than or equal to 80. Okay. So is what I'll explain here shortly after we maybe build this whole thing is that we're actually not going to need the ampersand here. But let's keep going with this, and we'll talk about why we don't need this later. Okay. So our next scenario will be the C scenario. So let's just copy what we have here. And we'll say that we're talking about a grade of a C. And so this should be anything that's less than 80, but greater than or equal to 70. And next, let's talk about a D grade. So again, just copying what we had. And so now we want anything less than 70 and bigger than or equal to 60. Okay. and this would be again a D. Now, there's one more scenario this person could fail. They could get an F. So we just need else. Okay. So if it's not an A, B, C, or D, it must be an F. So we can just say else display grade F. Okay. Let's go ahead and hit save, and we'll go ahead and test it out. Okay, so let's try 65 again. This should be a D based on our criteria. And you can see that it is indeed displaying a D. Um, Try it 15%, this should be an F, or a 95, which should be an A. Looks good. Okay. So here's the thing. Okay. Sometimes we will need this ampersand to specify that we want both conditions to be true. Okay. And we certainly do want both conditions to be true in all of these where the ampersand has happened. Okay. However, this if statement is going to run vertically from the top to the bottom. Okay. So if the percentage is greater than or equal to 90, it will display a grade of an A. All right. Then, if it's not greater than or equal to 90, it will move on to the next statement. So I don't actually need to say here that it's less than 90. If it moved on to the else if here, it must have been a number less than 90. And we can go through and actually change all these and get rid of that and it should function perfectly fine. Let's save it and we'll go test it out. So again, a 95 is an A, a 73 should be a C, and maybe a 15 again should be an F. Okay. And you can see it's functioning in really the same manner. Okay. But it is important to again note that sometimes we do have two conditions that need to be met, and when that happens, we'll use the ampersand. Okay. Now, there's something else we could add to this function. Okay. It is possible that maybe we enter in a percentage that maybe can't happen in a certain class. So maybe the teacher maybe accidentally enters in a negative percentage or a percentage above 100. Well, we'd like the function to tell us that we've made an entry error here. So what we could do is we could say, well, if the percentage is greater than 100, then we'll say that there is an error. And so this is a nice little built-in function here on MATLAB error. And it is what it will do is if this thing up here happens, it will just stop the function and report whatever error you write in here. And let's just make it entry error. But you can type in anything here that you want. Um, and now this is one option is that we get a percentage above 100. Let's test it. Okay, so if we go over here, let's try 115, and hopefully it'll tell us entry error. It's actually telling us that we're missing an end statement. And that's because this if statement that I just added in here doesn't have an end. Let me kind of separate those. There we go. So let's go ahead and go back in here and we'll hit run. Okay. Now it's telling us the entry error that we were talking about. Okay. And if we wanted to, we could say if the percentage is greater than 100, so we'll use this vertical bar here for or if the percentage is, say, less than 0, then there was probably an entry error. So let's save it, come back over here, we'll hit run, and it's still telling us entry error, but let's see if it does that for a negative as well. Right, and it is. Okay. Good. The only other thing we could possibly do here is we could have made this we could make this all one big if statement. I actually created two separate if statements, and that's why we have two separate ends in here. Okay. We could have gotten rid of this end here and made this second if an else if. There we go. So now we have just one single if statement. So let's go ahead and hit save, and we'll go ahead and hit run and just test out a few values, make sure it's doing exactly what we expect. 67 should be a D, seeing that. 93 an A. So this seems to be working great. And that is it.